2, 3. All right, guys. So here we are back on another amazing interview with the Healthy Hustle podcast. Why do we call it that? Because it does take a lot to build a business. It does take a lot to show up in life, but we 100% have to do it in this healthy way, because if not, and I've been there myself, which is why I so wanted to do this podcast about how to build your business in a healthy way, alignment, and do it so that you don't feel completely drained, but also remind you that, like, don't quit before it happens. It takes 3 to 5 years to sometimes build a book, a business, but if you do it the right way and you build the foundation right, you will feel good. And that is why I had to ask Carey. Now, if you go to Carey's Facebook page, and you're going to later, and you're going to check out what she does, Carey is not only an amazing wealth of information from science to soul, but she is just a woman who lives her truth, and created something that she felt and knew that her people wanted, and also wasn't scared to change it when she felt that, you know, it needed to be changed, or that it also needed to be changed for even her soul as well. So I am extremely excited to have Carey here. Carey Adams, here you are. Welcome. And so grateful for you to be here.
So good to be here. This is so fun for me.
So, okay. Tell me, like, you know, first, give everyone like a little insight into what kind, because I feel like coaches are different all the time. You know, we specialize in different things. Tell us what you do for your community.
So my community is for female runners, specifically moms. I help them get fit, run fast, and set their bodies up to set them up to unapologetically build healthy, fit, strong, powerful bodies and lives that they love. And I created a little membership. I have a free community, and I have a paid community where we go deep into the mindset of being healthy and sticking to the plan, and working through the self-sabotage and all of the hard stuff that we all know that people need to work through. And I give them great training plans, and I give them a lot of support and love and coaching.
So take us even back, because, you know, I think for any coach, not only any coach who's starting, but for anybody who's like, oh my goodness, because I remember when I heard somebody say what they do so gracefully, I was like, I will never, like the mindset stuff, like I will never be able to speak like that. Or how did she get to that? How does she know? Like, even go back, were you always very clear in conviction? So kind of walk it. And I'm like, because even listening to, I even had to, and I always say, listen to the conscious and the subconscious. I had to be like, wow, do I see now? And we do all of that. So like, walk me through even what it took for you to get to that place, of really having it just roll from your like tongue and your heart.
Oh my God. This is my 5th year in business. And I feel like that I actually just created that like last week. I honestly have struggled so hard to define what it is I do, because I do so many things, and people need they need so much from us. And what we know that they need versus what they want is a very different thing. And it's very difficult to, especially as a health professional, like I'm a physiotherapist from Canada by trade, so I know what people need.
Yeah.
But putting that in a way that gives them what they want and trust me, it's been, you know, last year, I think last year I didn't do anything. I listened to podcasts all year long, trying to figure out what it is that I do. Like, who am I serving? What am I doing? And I really spent a lot of time with my community, the people in my membership and the people in my free community. And I got frustrated and I cried and I spent days in bed going, what am I doing? Like, I'm not helping anybody and no one needs what I do. This is crazy. And then I came up with that. I help female runners get fit, run fast, and unapologetically. See, I don't even, it doesn't quite go because it's still new, but like unapologetically set their bodies up to get healthy and strong and feel powerful. And it's so much even bigger. Like I don't want to cut you off, and please tell me if you're a person who gets offended by this, because no. I've watched you. And so guys, if you don't know Carey, like you have to even go to our Facebook and like scroll back, because I saw you when you started this. And so don't think she's saying this coming from a place of not having success. And I think that's what's so delusional, is that we do get to it for so many, like, oh, well, you know, people only feel that when they're not having success. And that's not true. I think it's actually when you start to have success and you're like, what am I really doing? Like, what do I really want to teach? And I do feel that for most of us, it's like at that 5 year, it's like when you're like, okay, I'm breathing now, because that hustle and that really having to test all these different things out, I've gotten to learn. But I think it's even bigger what you're saying before. Then I have this running membership, and then I remember it evolved to adding the hormone component and some specialists, because that's what people are asking, in the weight, to this bigger message of like, don't apologize for putting yourself first, your health, you as a woman. And that is a huge message. Do you feel that's like a shift that was made? It is a big shift. And because it's been such a shift, because again, what people are ready to hear and listen to is just so different. So I'm beating my head against the wall talking about running and injury prevention, all this stuff that's so boring to me. And I know that that's not like recipes and like that, like that's not what people need. They need to go deeper. And I kind of was like, well, no, I'm not going to talk about that stuff, but that's what I needed to go deeper into. And like, that's where people are connecting with me and they're signing up because they like my holistic approach. Whereas, I think the other thing is you go through these business courses and they talk about niche, and you don't really know your people until you work with them for a long time, and you have to go deeper. And that's where I was like, I'm ready to go deeper. And I actually think that women are wanting to go deeper now and have these conversations. So it's been a real challenge to like nail that down and figure, and it still evolves. It always evolves, right? How to really get that out in a way, but that it just comes with all just putting it out there and seeing what resonates with people and what doesn't. And being okay with going deeper and sharing some of that stuff. And going with my soul, because I don't just want to talk about injuries. If you just want to talk about injuries and running miles and taking selfies of yourself doing your workouts, well, I'm not the one for you, right? And then I think the other issue has been for me is everyone tells you to solve the one problem. I don't solve like one problem, but I do help them fill a desire. They want to be healthy and fit and strong and powerful, and they want to love their lives and their bodies, but they don't, and they're not there.
One of the copywriters that I interviewed, she was actually my first copywriter, and a woman who truly opened me up to being okay with me. And she was actually the one, because I had the typical health coach website and the typical stuff like, do you want less inflammation? Do you want to feel, like all that stuff. And she got on the phone with me and she said, like, I don't see any, you're talking to me, but like, what do you really want to say? So I let it out. And when I was interviewing her, she said, see, everyone's stuck on the solution, this problem. She said, but the thing is, just as I hit this depression wall this year, like, whoa, what am I teaching? That I'm actually like, it's not that I'm steering people wrong, but like, we're not just a book. we are so encompassing. We're humans. We are so unique. We're so different. We have stuff that is in layers, cells, memories, stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, I always tell my clients, ask yourself, what is the vision you have for the people you serve? She's like, see, Rachel, people who come out and just go, well, I have this program or this course or this freebie or this workshop, and this is what you're going to learn. She's like, that's one thing. But when you come out with a conviction and a vision that is different and separates you, and because you just feel like that's what's being called. She's like, it's the thought leaders that take the chance to say that. And those are the coaches that all of a sudden rise above, and they're not even spending as much as all these coaches over here, because they're like, wow, I'm just listening. I'm listening instead of going, well, I've done all the market research, which we all should do. And you're like, and I know my perfect avatars, which we all should do under a niche. There's, avatar groups, and they each have a different message. And we all have that work. You can even download it for free at this point on the internet. But the next part is really like, what do I feel that could resonate with this woman sitting there really feeling stuck with this part? And this other part of me that used to feel really stuck, what is this vision and how can I express to her? And I know that's what I built my business on. And that's why people get so confused. Like, well, what do you mean you had so many freebies? I said, those were just message carriers, because I did experience a lot. And so I think when we get into coaching, we're like, wow, what do I focus on? Because I'm not just this one like cookie cutter little box that goes, oh, I'm a woman and a mom and a business owner. It's like, no, I have all this stuff that has made me into who I am today. And it will continually evolve.
Continues to evolve as we grow. And I think that's what gets tricky, because you evolve as you grow. And I think one of my skills is like my superpowers is that I listen to my people, my community, and I feel them. Like I feel them. I'm an empath, and that took me a really long time to understand. I didn't even know what that was for a very long time. And it explains a lot about my history and different jobs and stuff. But that ability to listen and pivot and shift and give them what they want.
Did you? Oh, sorry. Did you feel it just because I'm like, oh my God, if I don't write this, I'm going to have to write down this question and then ask you, and it won't even fit into the time. Did you feel, because this is what I hear a lot of coaches say, they're like, if I give them what they want, I feel like I'm deviating from my, like the end solution, the purpose. Did you feel at any time that kind of like part where you're like, okay, I'm giving them what they want to get them in, because I know that they are going, because I'm now like the person who's meant to be with me. She's with me. She's not only running with me, she's running with me in my soul. But did you feel that part where you were like, had to say some different messages, especially in the beginning, to get people in, even though you knew deep in your gut, this was probably where you were going?
You know what's funny? My program has never changed. What I teach has really never changed that much. But I did, I struggled a lot because people with the weight loss thing, everyone wants weight loss. And there was a lot of struggle in the wording of how to do that. And I've just evolved with it. And I do give them what they want. They want recipes. Great. Here's a meal plan. Right? That's how I get them.
Win-win.
Yeah. And that's how I get them in at the surface level.
Exactly. That is a perfect way of explaining it. And that's what I was kind of asking. Like you know where you're taking them, because you're so clear that that's just where you need to meet them first.
Yeah. And I've tried to do the deeper stuff to get them in, but they're like, most people can't go there. Yeah. Most people zip around their day and wonder why they're not healthy and they're not doing the work and they can't get started and they can't stick to it. They just want the quick goods. They just want the quick thing. So you give them that quick thing, but then you bring them in and then you nurture them. And then you do lots of these lives and you do lots of that stuff. And yeah, totally. That's how I do it for sure. They love the workout challenge. All they want to do is the workout challenge, the workouts. And I fought that. I'm like, God, it's not the workouts that you people need. You're already working out. Like, but it's what they want. They want more workouts.
But see, you even sharing that because, you know, if anyone doesn't know, guys, Carey built a successful membership. You only work online. You even built that membership by yourself. Literally watching like ClickFunnels tutorials, correct?
Yeah,
and you just were like, I am going after it.
Yeah.
But one thing that you have continued to say, and I just think this has to be like pointed out. So like for anyone listening, because I feel like sometimes it's so easy with a lot of conversation, you're talking about trust building left and right. You're like, I did the lives, I show what I'm about, you know, and also you talked about also like fighting that, like, oh God, I'm struggling with giving them this because that's not what I would do. That's not what I know they need really. So I just love that you've really shown the pathway to coaching and that pivoting that you talk about, like, you know, not only hearing them, but saying, wow, they really love this. So how do I keep them and retain them? Okay. So they really love the weight loss. Like, how do I make them really happy? And you don't have to change your program ever. You just either have to add components or even change some of the talking and within even that membership or the.
And I think what happens is as people get to know you, a different type of person comes to you. So the person who just wants workouts and wants to take selfies and not talk about anything else generally doesn't come to me anymore because they're like, well, we're talking about self-sabotage and like creating new levels of ourselves. And we're talking about intuitive eating. Like, I'm not really wanting to do that.
Right.
But the people who come to me want to do that because that's, you know, I've got them in at the surface level and talk to them where I meet them where they're at and then bring them in deeper, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
whenever I think of that, I'm so sorry. I keep it, and please, if you're like, okay, Rach, let me finish this. Whenever I think of that, I always think of messaging. And it was my second coach that just said to me, you can have every program. You created your program, Rachel, you have that, but you're not clear on really who you help and how you help them. Yeah. And for me, I did have different programs because I personally think when there's autoimmune, there's so many steps and like the autoimmune coaches or my moderators or what I call my autoimmune squad, where I call them like, are you having a flare today? Because this is the weather. There are more steps, but that doesn't mean that every coach has to do that. Like I always say, nail down the one thing. And if it's nothing else, start with your message. Start there before you invest a lot of time, a lot of energy, beta test it. And I think what you are, not only what you're saying, but it's exactly what anybody would say when you really nail your message is that like energetically, that just goes out and those people will come to you because they're like, wow, I heard her. That is exactly how I feel. I have to personal message her. I have to email her. Like I've had people on YouTube videos even say, no one has ever told the story of having H. pylori and all these other health issues, being on life support, like my story. And they're like, you are the only person. And that's why I always say, like, show up. Don't share dirty trash. Don't make Facebook or social media, a journal, a diary, but you have to show up and share what you really feel inside, especially if you want to solely work in the online market.
Yeah, you have to. I think a lot of people skip that message, and I don't think that it's talked about enough. And I think we just come up with something really quick, and then everyone wants to dive into the tech.
Yep.
If you do it right, you don't even need the tech. Like you just say, here, sign up here, and you send them the page, but we skip the messaging, we skip the going deeper. And I think a lot of it is we don't know.
Totally. Especially in new coaching. I mean, it's just like, I look at it and I think, even at 18, and they're like, okay, what do you want to do for school? And you're like, I haven't even gotten out into the world yet.
No,
Like my mom
no.
always has said, you guys should have like a 2-year where you're working and you're testing out things where they do that. It's the same thing in coaching.
Yeah.
We don't even know what feels right. I mean, I went from emotional eating in the beginning. I was like, this is so not right. That was a thing for me. And I was working with I was working in teams. I was working with some unbelievable centers. And I was like, this is not right for me. And so I think we have to go through that, but it's the sticking in that. It's the sticking in that uncomfortableness. And that's what you keep. Every coach that I've interviewed who is what I say successful, no matter what that means to anybody, whether it's successful spiritually, successful in their business. Usually when I say success in their message and their spirit and their happiness, there's usually success in their business. Is they've said that you have to push through that. You have to test and be willing to be uncomfortable, because we ask our clients to do that. Be uncomfortable in this moment. You know, we're going to work on some stuff, but yet we don't take that chance to be uncomfortable in the testing. Like you said, we go right to, I'm launching. I always say to people, please, please, like, just know even what you believe in, know what you want to say, know what your vision is, know what even your own journey was. If you can't write that down, don't launch yet. Talk to people, do strategy sessions, do them for free. Find out, sit in a place and just listen to people, and all kinds of people. Ask, if you have children, ask parents. So what's kind of struggling? And that's where you will hear, you know,
and you have to listen to that. Actually, one thing that recently happened is I started doing phone calls, trying to do sales calls. And I had raised my price because everybody tells you to do X, Y, and Z. And so everyone does X, Y, and Z. So I'm like, okay, I'll raise my prices and I'll get on sales calls. And so I did that. And people would tell me all their problems and I could totally help them. And, but they weren't, I ended up leaving them like really flustered at the end. Like, I'm not great at sales calls, but I ended up leaving them really flustered. And I think worse off than when they began, because they're like, but you're like a running coach. We're not really a running coach. So then they leave flustered and they wouldn't buy. And what I took from those was I listened to them. I listened to their problems. Like, we talked a lot about their desire, and it's like they talked so much about what they wanted and where they were stuck. But they weren't connecting that I could help them. And so that allowed me to like rework my wording, because they were coming in like, Carey's a run coach and a physiotherapist, you know, like it wasn't connecting for them. And so for me, I was able to go like, whoa, I need to like rejig my messaging and rejig what I'm talking about. And when I did that, I'm getting way more signups now. It was really interesting listening. And again, not letting those failures and those setbacks like throw me off track. Like, I am laser focused.
Yeah. When I think of you, I think laser focused, doer, go-getter.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is so interesting about business is everyone, like, my first copywriter was like, what do you want to say about business? I was like, burn the weight loss books, unlearn everything. I looked back at the notes that I had from her, like 7.5 years ago, when I was able to afford a copywriter. And I looked at the notes when I did an hour session with her last year, which I told her, I said, you screwed me up after that session, because she brought me back to what was my real core. Everywhere it said, burn the launch blueprints, stop it, unlearn, don't listen to anybody. What does your soul say? Like, and what I mean by that is some strategies, of course, really work for people to get on the phone one-on-one, but other people sell great just from lives. And other people, you know, or you come off a strategy session like that and you're like, wow, well, maybe there's an in-between place or a product that these people need. And some people come off and say, you know what, that's not my jam. It doesn't fuel me. And it's not where I convert.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, again, you have to learn from that and look at yourself and what did I not do, right? Like, you don't get good at calls for a long time, I don't think. But also, again, like, just listening to what those people wanted. They were like, I don't have that money. Yeah. And for me, in my market, like, some markets do, but then I go back to my soul as well. I don't want to bring a bunch of people in who don't think they can afford it, or it's not that they can't even afford it. And you hear this talk all the time.
Yep.
But they don't prioritize. They're so in such a place that they don't believe that they deserve that kind of investment in themselves,
or that they're going to keep to it.
Or that they're going to keep to it. So, my soul.
I'm totally with you, because I will say this. I've been a speaker at a high ticket event. I've been on high ticket summits. I've even had friends who, have emailed me, who have known me like my whole career, like back to the day of Rachel's Wellness and the crappiest like site known to man. And they're like, why aren't you doing high ticket? And I think because, and this is not, there's no judgment. It's what you want to do. It's that
no judgment.
My list of people and who I attract because of my story and because of who I am. And because I feel that like, I'm like, I don't want to cry, but when we lost everything and I had to build this business, there were no free tools at that time. I mean, that was 10 years ago. I think PicMonkey, I was like, thank God I'm learning PicMonkey. But I couldn't afford a designer. I couldn't afford anything. And the reason that I keep things lower, and from what I see on creating a program, or even when I had Rachel's Wellness, someone calling me and saying that they have not gotten out of bed for 6 weeks and hearing a baby cry, I couldn't do it. So that was the only reason, because I was scared to do group programs. The only reason I started doing group programs and created a do-it-yourself was not that there was like, amazing blueprints, or I didn't know of like, one of my favorite loves is James Wedmore. Like, I just think he's brilliant and he is everything that I admire in an entrepreneur, like to a T. So I don't follow many. I follow very distinctly like a few people, and they're not even in the health industry. But listening to that, I was like, my goal, my mission has always been like, I was inspired by John Carter on ER. I'm inspired by Max on Amsterdam. It's like, why should you need to have money to get better? So I did tons of, but I say to coaches all the time, like, you might have a different strategy. It doesn't matter. It's not a right or wrong. It's about what feels right when you go to bed. And some people say, oh, Rach, no, your membership, other people, I'm like, you know what? That's what other people do. And just like you said, it's like, there's a torn, and then I have to sit there and get reminded of why I do what I do. And at the end of the day, it's so that like no one's left behind. But I think that there's also tiers. Like, I think, even I'm looking at even my membership and even my stuff. I think that there's way to tier people, for the person who really can't afford what you have, like a beautiful place that has like a part of it. Because when they do get to that place, because I know I was that jaded personality too, where I was like, there's nobody that can, help. And not just for my health issues, but just as a person, like, I got to drive the car before I'm committing to X, Y, Z, And so I think sometimes having an offer where it is a very non-committal offer, so that somebody can see, wow, what is it like when you're really in community? How drastically does your life change when you have sisterhood? No matter what, how much do you feel like you have a place then to go cry when you feel like you can't even cry to the people that know you? Because and I think that's, that's the beautiful about what I call like the funnel. A funnel isn't just an email sequence. It's like the different opportunities for that person who can't afford that yet. What does she have a place? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Totally. And that's all so important to me. And my niche really, truly is like really struggling emotionally, financially, physically, moms. And my mission, like I come from hospital work, working with the frailest in the community. I remember my first job was at the MS Society. And this one, I remember getting this call. She said, I can't come because I can't afford the bus.
Oh.
And it like broke my soul, which is why I couldn't do that kind of work. But like people really can't. And so why does that mean that they can't also have support and community and sisterhood? And everyone around me is telling me, raise your prices. You give too much. It's so much value. I'm like, but my core, like who I want to serve and how I want to help, I really truly believe what I offer should be accessible to everybody. And I go to sleep at night. I don't want $1 million business. I want a business that I love, and I go to sleep every day happy, and I wake up excited to get back into my community. And then people will tell me, well, don't go in your community so much. You should only be in there once a month for that price. Or
I'm like, Carey, I'm thinking, are we twins? Because people say the same thing to me. I had, and I hope you like take this to heart, because I still struggle with it. I had virtual assistants one after another. My first one that was like, don't make yourself accessible. People will pay more. And I was like, but when I was trying to start this business, like I had nobody to turn to. I had nowhere. And I was like, I will never, because I've had coaches buy the wrong thing. And I'm like, buy the wrong content. And I'm like, or they say, I wish I would have found you because you actually get on the phone with me. I'm like, I want you to, because if you know what you're doing and you feel confident, you're going to go help somebody.
Yeah. I think that's what we want.
I think the biggest thing that I think as an entrepreneur, because as a feeler empath, and I forget the woman who speaks about this, but I had this one person who speaks, she's a lawyer, she speaks all around, Lisa Fraley, who I adore. She said to me, she was like, Rachel, I spoke at this one event and it was life-changing for me. And I said to her, what do you mean? She said, see, this is the thing, Rachel, you by nature are a health coach. You're not, she goes, you are the person you cry for a month when you find out somebody's passed away. You wake up and you're like you speak to your children. What are we going to do about these kids who are not eating? What are we going to do? She's like, that's a different kind of coach than somebody who's like, this is awesome. I love my work. She's like, there's not a wrong, and she had names to it. Of course, I can't remember. And for months I've been like, I have to find this out. But she's like, there's the person who's the fame person. They love being on the stage. And I said to her, I was like, but Lisa, I love being on the stage. She's like, but that's not what you're driven by. What you're driven by is that people are empowered. She's like, your message has never changed. It's empowered. It's choices. It's to be their doula. It's to teach others to be a doula. It's to teach others to be an advocate. And it's that nobody should ever be denied the opportunity to stand in their truth. Like nobody. And whether that's business and whether that's health. And she's like, there are others that they're still called and they do great work. She's like, but you, if you want to do that, will have to partner with the fame person, because the fame person comfortably goes, oh my God, I am going on this stage. I'm hosting this retreat. I'm putting this academy together, because that's their constitution. Doesn't mean they don't feel, but I think when we're talking about people who really are empaths, like who you can feel stuff and you can feel, and you can even feel it in your body. It's that to sit there and to say, how am I going to scale my business? What I had to do is really sit there and say, for the woman, for the person who really does not have money, I created like a do-it-yourself and matched a 30-minute session and was like, we're going to start here. So that like I knew, because I felt like sick if I didn't give them something. I was like, okay, well, if I start them on like this basic cleanse, that was where everything came from. Because when I first started my business, autoimmune was becoming like cancer was like it was blowing up. Like it was just standard. And I was like, okay, so if I give somebody this, so I had 3 do-it-yourself programs at different levels. One was how to go grain-free because I had to for me. And I included that with a session. And that just allowed them to buy a really inexpensive cost program with a session with me. And then they would often come back and say, I did it with my family. I did it with my husband, or I did it with my mom. This has really changed my life. What's next?
And you need that to break the barrier down, right? There's people right now are so stressed and
100%.
so full and struggling so deeply.
Yep.
Like we have to break through that fear, and we have massive health problems on our hands, like massive.
I mean, and I think a lot of people are like, they get into this whole like DIY, everything's automation. I'm like, people need accountability. So that's why even if it was an hour, I thought, do you know what? This person will be with me for life. Where I will change. Like, I had a different approach with business, while other people were like, but I've actually asked a lot of people when I'm in places where people are at high ticket, and I'm like, how many people are on your list? And like, oh, 50. I'm like, how many, have you had clients? And like, no. So I think that sometimes it appears one way. Everyone says to raise your prices. Nobody talks about, though, behind the scenes, how much when you do raise your prices and you start to have these elevated businesses, how much that costs. And sometimes keeping things really simple and showing up, for me at least, this was what worked, showing up and offering what I felt was low cost for people. I never had a downtime. And in the online business, which I had babies, similar, I had small kids, similar to how you've built your business. I had to make sure that in December, I wasn't starving like every other coach. In March, I wasn't starving when tax time came. I wasn't starving in the summer. I wasn't starving in August when everyone was on holiday. And I think that's the part that everyone doesn't, they're like, I'm going to go online. It's so much easier. And it's like, but you have to make sure what you're providing when kids are going back to school and everyone's thinking about the clothes and the books. Yeah. And they're like stressed. Are you marketing in the beginning of September? No, I hope not. Maybe it's better if you wait till October and, like let everyone forget how painful that buying books for their kids or their college or whatever their financial goals are.
Yeah. And that's why I love my membership. I love, it's very stress-free because you always have that residual coming in every month, and it allows me to have the life that I want. Like I said, I don't want $1 million business. I just want a consistent business that allows me to live a stress-free, simple life, because that's always been my goal. I'm a complete minimalist, and I don't need much. I need to eat good food. I need to go on adventures with my family, and I need to have a massive impact on women's health. And it's funny, something you said before made me remember like why I even started a lot of this. I'd watched a Jamie Oliver video about how there's generations of children who don't know what food is, like where real food comes from. And it like sat so heavy in me. And I'm like, well, who doesn't know that? People who from low economic status. I'm like, those people need servicing too. They're tough to reach sometimes, but they're on Facebook and they're all over. We just need to connect them.
Even I think some moms, who just are busy. I think that's what you were talking about. Like, I do feel, especially in even how I'm writing programs different now, less information, more do this, more course-like, because between activities, and this is what I mean, I sit down with moms all the time and say, or I watch when people come home, because I work from home so I can see my outside. People feel stressed. I mean, look, we're witnessing kids killing kids. We're witnessing people who are taking their lives, who have the money or had the money. And I don't know anybody's life, so I don't ever make an assumption, but I think, wow, where are we really if this is happening? How stressed are the parents? Both are most often working. The child gets picked up at 6, dropped off at 7. Where the breakdown's not just like, oh, the parents didn't do this or the school, like it goes to a whole, like the soul, the community, like everything that, that we talk about and that we feel is part of, like you said, it's not just the running. It's not just this. It's like, but I do think at the end of the day, no matter what anyone's mission is, like, think about even within the membership, or if you have a membership, like, are there upsells within there? Do some people want a one-on-one session or a package, and I think that's where people can really, like you, stay with a membership. Do you find that you do most of your marketing just by showing up on Facebook, or do you do webinars or anything?
Yeah, showing up on Facebook. I have a free Facebook group, so I'm always trying to get people into my free Facebook group. And then I usually do a 5-day workout challenge or a 5-day mindful eating challenge, because runners, my community really struggles with eating. So I do those challenges for 5 days. I go live every day. They do a workout with a video from me. I go live, talk about a topic every day, and then I invite them in to keep going, keep the accountability up, get the training programs, get the meal plans. And so that's how I do that. And it works really well. It's just trying to keep getting those leads coming in, because we do need to build a business and make money too. And that takes time, but that's my plan, build a really big membership and then upsell like smaller programs from out there, or affiliate programs, or like, I really, again, listen to my people. I'm like, you have arthritis and you're really dying with these issues. Like, I can't do everything. I can meet them where they're at as runners. That's what I do, right? I help them get fit and build strong bodies, but then all these other come up. So then I'll think I'm really sending them out to other people and having those resources, which they really love and value. And I also feel really confident doing. Yeah. And then, you can take a commission and stuff. So.
And I would say, even before like we close and kind of do a little wrap up and stuff like that, I think for everyone, we're in the same situation. I started to see the digital place like change about 2 years ago. I know whenever in the United States, whenever we have an election, that further enhances of just people get very fearful. And I think we've been in that state to begin with for a while. But I think, testing out also other places. I know for me, like Google Plus was huge. Still to this day, I look at my analytics personally even. And I keep a sheet whenever somebody calls. I'll be like, hey, so how'd you find me? And most of it is like, I found you on YouTube. I found you on Google, which really is Google Plus. And so I think, at the end of the day, it usually comes down to there's enough people in the world that, identify with you. It's like how to find them and how to just reach them,
I think I think you have to be very, very clear on what you're trying to say. Like, what are you really trying to do? Who are you really trying to help? What really matters to you? And I mean, your studies have taken you in that direction. And very often what we want to teach is like something we've been through. So we need to really work on that story, because people email me too. They're like, oh my God, what you said sounds just like me. And I'm like, perfect. I've done my job. Now I need to like love on you and then bring you into
the membership. I mean, one of the exercises when I teach at Hippocrates is I have them do a story timeline. Like my children do it in second grade and they still have their own, but I have them do a story timeline all the way from birth to where they are now. Because for some people, their issues, either whether it's spiritual or karmic or metaphysical or physical, have started at birth or have been passed on karmically. And I say to them, go write down those, make those blocks, put pictures there, because that is going to help you know these different aha moments, the times that you went to your knees to then you rose up. And there are different valuable stories. And if you don't know each of those, you're not going to, like we said, message to these different women that are at those different places who still need to get to the end result with you. Oh, thank you so much. If you could tell, you know, somebody who is just a wellness coach, you know, something that you wish you would have done in the beginning, what would you tell them?
I would have listened a bit stronger to my intuition and got help on clarifying my message and not help on building my funnels. Because without that message, that clear message, nothing else matters. You can spend all kinds of money on ads and funnels and tech and websites, but and that they won't help. If you have a message that resonates with people, you don't even need all that stuff. You can do it without it. So I think it's really dialing in that message and putting in that time and really soul work, which you help me really do.
I think we all do. You know what I mean? I can't even, I'm not even going to say anything beyond that, because I'm like, oh, that is so beautifully said. But that is the power of community, because we all help each other. Somebody gets vulnerable and you're like, or somebody says something. And I think we do ourselves such a disservice, like you said, when we go just so technical, because I've seen people sell entire programs, never had a website, never have anything. And it's their mouth, which is really free. It comes with our body.
And it's funny because I think of the things I buy online. I've never been to some people's websites. I just listen to them. Yep, that's what I want. And so I go. Yeah. Okay, that's what I need to do. They can't be surfing around and thinking. They need to show up ready. Then I've done my job.
Yeah, I agree. I so agree. Can you tell everyone, even though they're going to be in the show notes, where to find you? Because I know everyone's going to want to check out. And for those who just felt everything in their soul that you were saying, I know that there's not only coaches that need that, but just people are going to find this and say, oh my God, she's the woman who needs to journey with me.
Yeah. I'm at Running Moms everywhere. Running Moms. I have a Facebook group, the Running Moms Health, Wellness and Fitness Community. And then on Facebook, I'm Running Moms.
And IG, you're Running Moms probably.
Yep. Running Moms _physio.
Got it. All right. Well, that will be in the show notes. But I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time out and just being so open about every aspect, because it's really easy to not see that behind the scenes. It's really easy to not see that that we have to always kind of rework it and really tap in to that intuition and that soul. I love that you said that, because I feel like for a few years I lost myself. And I got caught up and I went into comparison and I felt like I was breaking down, and it wasn't financial. It was a breakdown emotionally. And I had to get right and say, we're either going back to who we are or we're not going to be able to do this. Right. And, it's a beautiful thing when everything feels right. So thank you so much. Thank you. Guys, stay tuned for the next episode on Healthy Hustle. And remember, do not forget to stop by Carey and check out her runningmoms.com. You will see everything in the show notes. And I hope that you have a blessed and beautiful and awesome day. And don't forget to put yourself first. Otherwise, stuff seems to often fall apart in many areas of our life. I'll see you guys later. It's Rachel Feldman, and I will see you on the flip side.